generating more revenue, which they would contend would be with their water?
Oh, I don't think so.
No?
No, I don't think that, no. They make a bundle. They make, I don't think they have any problem with what we do on our end and how we get how we maintain the good news on the water side, by the way, is that for the first time, we're looking at being in the black. Under the current program and with the revised recommendations we made to you, I think you're gonna be happy to hear that. The problem in this current year, of course, is the deficit we gotta address in using
The additional funds raised.
yeah, thank you, to offset that, and the Stickney Fund, of course, has to come in there and make that work, but going forward, I think you're gonna be happy with the numbers that you see.
And I believe this plan does address the deficit, will eliminate the deficit. I just want to remind the Board of Selectmen and Finance Committee that if we don't, then any deficit will come right off the top of free cash, so we really need to eliminate that deficit.
What's the dollar amount? What are we facing?
401,
Right,
401,000.
right.
And
Yes.
this is the year that we've been told that has to be addressed, so.
Yes. Yes, yes,
Thank
being in
you.
the black means that we have a surplus in a given year, and then when the books are closed, that they would go into retained earnings of the enterprise.
Right.
And that account can only be used for rate reduction, or stability, or capital.
And you'll hear this on Monday night because it's in his plan, but one of the justifications for the 2% increases is to build that capital fund, which has been obviously unavailable to us. Yes, Debbie? Oh, okay, right, yeah.
The only last thing I'd like to mention under capital, I started with water capital, let me finish on it. There's one project that we need to do, and that is at the Lakeside plant. For example, the new plant, we have a holding tank of water, and when we have to backwash to clean all the filters out, that comes from that holding tank. So it's internalized, and it has no effect on the system. If you live over on Lakeside Boulevard, people are used to getting up in the morning and learning how to shower and so forth with the system, because we have no holding tank. We have to backflush from the system itself. So the water that's going into the system, all of a sudden, is surging back and creates partial vacuums in the system, and there are lots of times you could be in the middle of a shower and all of a sudden you get a trickle and you have to wait. People have been living with that for years. It's also not healthy in the system. You're shocking the system. So as soon as we have some debt retirement, Mark will get into that, but as soon as we have some debt retirement, we want to be able to go forward on site to have that installation. I don't know if you've ever gotten calls over there. I think most of the people just have been over there so long and live with the situation. That's what it is. It's amazing. Yeah.
We used to get the calls on the water quality over
On the
there.
quality,
Right.
yeah.
And when that got pretty much
Rusty.
slid away,
The rusty
Right.
they
glass.
tolerated everything else.
Yeah,
brown
it's only the,
clothes.
it's only the
The bonus,
pressure,
it was a
the
bonus.
volume, right, not the color, right.
Okay, any?
No, that's, and on the benchmark, I'm ready to do benchmarking
Yeah.
quickly.
Dave, and I didn't want to go into a lot of detail on the benchmarking today, but I think it is fair that a few things are brought forth. In the benchmarking report, for those that have looked at it, and this question has been raised, is the number of public full-time employees that are listed in the benchmarking report is a number of 56, which obviously is a mistake or represents calculation based on other numbers, and I think there's been an explanation for it, but clearly for those that, and I think most of those people that are looking at should realize that you really need to look at this and look at the proposal of the Public Works budget to clearly understand where the real spending is and where the issues and differences might exist. Some of these issues have not fully been explained. Hopefully we'll get to the bottom of it, and I'll start with that. And I guess, Steve, you had some questions?
No, I just wanna get, Dave, Greg's
Yeah,
take on.
Yeah,
Any conclusions?
I made no bones about it at the hearing. I probably upset some of the people that were at the meeting, but, as a department head, I was insulted, in the fact that, have no contact with the, author whatsoever. And that, when I reviewed it with Greg, there were instant flaws that we picked up immediately. Wrote the memo as of September 6th. No response. Greg had a meeting, set up a meeting for the department heads with the author. I brought my concerns up to him, and it's just not specifics on the 56 employees. It's just, if it's flawed so badly with numbers, where the hell did you get the numbers? And what is the impact in the rest of the study? He said that he would make contact with me and make corrections, which he never did.
So you have
I
not
know.
heard,
So
Greg, have you?
I'm also slighted, insulted, I'm slighted, but I'll get over it. I'll get through that. But you open the door for it, and I wanna go through it, and I'm not, just to give you some example, it wasn't too long ago, we had an MMA benchmark, and your Public Works, North Reading, was right in the average where I expected it to be. And this report indicated that we were high normal. And then when you look at 56 employees, how the hell do you get double the employees? I don't know. I asked him, and he, by the way, he didn't have an answer. He didn't have an answer. Also, I mentioned how we do business. I mentioned the Chapter 90 and how we do force account. We take our Chapter 90 funds, we do force account, and use our own forces to do much of the construction work where we can to save money and put more money into the paving, the materials. Now, most towns don't do that. It's an administrative pain in the ass. And what they do is they just contract everything out. And that's normally what you do. The engineer would just put a contract out, and it's done soup to nuts by others, and all you do is inspect it. So, all the money that was paid to our employees, for example, under projects, not taxation, are shown in as expenses. That differential was not made in terms of monies that are spent that are under the operating budget versus capital. Capital monies were entwined with it, which inflated costs to the town, which are not true. And that was also explained in my memo. Now, I can't expect him for $7,500, whatever you paid, to go in and undo that kind of math. But what I do expect is asterisks, some notification that, some explanation why, if we stand out high normal compared to other communities, why? That's all I'd have. Even if, just put my memo in, and out of due respect. But I know where we stand in the norm of things, and I know we do, and I've been working with you folks a long time. We're not empire builders. The average Public Works employee's optimum efficiency is 10 years. Why do we want to go out and hire more full-time Public Works employees? Train them for 3 years. That's what it takes. And now they can do anything. They can cross the boundaries of anything that we do. And now they're building up sick leave and vacation. And at their 10-year mark, they get 4 weeks off. They've used a lot. They've bundled a lot of sick leave. They've God bless them, that's the system, I have no problem with that. But then they can't go away in the winter. From November to April, nobody goes away except by special permission. So that means, in the construction season, in the heart of the construction season, you gotta let them go. And you gotta manage this time off. People having 4, 5, 6 weeks vacation. So why do you wanna build an apartment and keep building that kind of problem? No, what we do is have consortium bids and vendor services and contract services to supplement what we do. That's the best combination to get a successful program, and I think we're doing as good as anybody. And so, when I look at a benchmarking exercise for $7,500 and no interface with the man whatsoever, and I get this, it needed some brief explanation, and now today you get a little more of an explanation.
I think we're getting a pretty good one related to,
Yeah, well, how we do our business.
But as far as the per capita cost, and again, that's what the initial thing
Right.
people look at, the per capita cost, whether it's 56 employees or 28, that doesn't change, you know, the per capita.
well, except that
You know,
it depends on, and this is a question that,
Whether they factored in benefits and
did
things.
they factor in chapter 90 and other figures into the other communities if in fact they were done outside the outside contractors?
No, yeah, but
versus
that's my point, you know, as far as the per capita, it is what it is. I would expect that number's probably okay. However, with a little asterisk, as far as, you know, using the special projects funds, which isn't necessarily out of taxation, instead of contracting it out, we're actually getting more work
Yeah.
done at less of a cost.
Right.
Which is being factored in and should be explained.
More
So that
productive-
so that our actual per capita cost would actually be reduced and less, from a normal operational standpoint, if that's the norm. The
Well,
norm is not to take the chapter 90 fund and do the work yourself, like most communities.
Yeah, I guess the
No.
question that I would ask in municipal benchmarking is attributed to the issue of looking at when they accumulate their figures for calculating these numbers, and specifically in the case of public works, right? Are these measurements the same across the board? Meaning that where are they collecting the information from? And does it include chapter 90 expenditures or not? If it doesn't, and those expenditures show up because we use that money to pay our own labor, that would account for the difference, you know? Which I think is part of the case, because my understanding is, at least the explanation I got related to how they calculated the number of employees, was they didn't come and ask how many employees we had, but they used some average salary number and
Correct.
divided it by the expenditures and came up with this number, right? So, which has created a lot of confusion for people, and it bothers me less because my intent of looking at this report was to look at differences and then with a word to go in and understand where they came from.
Right.
And once I understood it, even if there was a big difference, right, at least then we could take the appropriate action, because we would then know what the basis is. But the bottom line is, this is what we're spending.
Right. Yeah,
This is
and
what we're
and
operating
again, with the
with.
explanations, I have no problem with the way that we're operating. I think we're being extremely efficient. We get good bang for our buck, and I think it's, you know, it's the way that the department's designed, and it's a good system. So it's,
Mr. Vino,
If-
and I think,
Yeah,
we have to move on.
Yeah,
so.
yeah, I'm gonna be brief, but I do wanna say this, and you'll probably hear it later in the day. This was a waste of $8,000. We have a company here that did not even give back to department heads, did not ask how many employees they had, and we're gonna look at that book, and I'm told we're looking at it to see how we're doing business. I can't do that with a company that made up numbers from some form that we have no idea where they came from, and put them in print, didn't show up for the first meeting we had when we had the public there. That was an absolute disgrace. I'm sorry, I was not in favor of benchmark report, as we all know, and this proves why I wasn't, because this is a total waste of $8,000. Thank you.
I just want to close, school isn't here, and I just want to say, from the school's end, I can